Call the USD 350 Board of Education meeting, June 13, 2016, meeting to order. Welcome all visitors. Welcome. Additions or changes to the agenda? Entertain a motion to approve the agenda.
Mr. President, I move that the board approve the agenda as presented.
Second.
It's moved and seconded to approve the agenda as presented. All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carried 7-0. The consent agenda is in front of you.
Nothing of real note. Our budget's in good shape. We still have lots of money to move around. For instance, page 24 on there shows, supplemental general. We have 79% of the budget remaining, only 3% for general fund. We move salary expenses around from one fund to another, so we still have a lot of that left to do. But the bottom line gives you a better idea. Also, our money in the bank. Significantly higher the last 3 months. I keep thinking that's going to average out a little bit. But, Mark, our auditor, Mark Bauer, will be in next week to go through some of that closeout with us with our turnover in the office. I want to make sure we're in good shape to finish out the year. And his payroll gal is coming in this week. I hope they are here for an hour and see if things are good. We'll leave them.
Should we? Entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Mr. President, I move the board approve the consent agenda as presented.
Second the motion.
It's moved and seconded. We approve the consent agenda as presented. All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carried 7-0. Are there any patron comments?
That would be me.
Tracy?
Hello. This is new for me. I've never come to a board meeting, so it'll be interesting to see what all goes on. But I've kind of compiled some thoughts that I have that I want to share with you guys, the school board members for USD 350. To begin with, our daughter, Mariah, she successfully completed 2 years of junior high cheerleading for her hometown of 14 years, the St. John Tigers. She cheered at every single game. She made it to nearly every practice. She never received any demerits and was never taken aside by her coach with complaints of not doing well with her cheer. She was never ineligible due to poor grades. She had no trouble learning any cheers or routines, and she looked sharp on the court. She loved the sport, and it provided her with a very positive school-affiliated activity in which she could be a part of and support the school in a positive way. This spring, Mariah participated in the week-long high school cheer tryout camp. She was there every day. On the day of tryouts, she tried out but did not make the team. She and the other kids were told that there was a person who was injured and unable to try out. However, the cheer coach used her score from the prior year and allowed her to be on the team. Let's see where it was. Even though she didn't have to try out like the rest of the kids. It was explained to all the girls there that the score from last year, well, it was explained to Mariah that the score from last year was higher than hers, and the coach knew how much this girl loved cheerleading and how much it meant to her and that she really wanted to be on the team. The kids were also told that the cheer coach discussed it with the administration and they approved it. There were only 2 other kids besides Mariah that didn't make the team, one being a brand new member to the community, going to be a senior in high school and no experience cheering. The other was a boy who participated in one semester last year as a yell leader, who didn't have to try out for that position last year. It was very hard for Mariah to accept that even though she successfully completed the 2 years of junior high and excelled in cheer, for some reason she wasn't good enough for the high school team, and that a girl who didn't even try out made the team. a couple of weeks after the tryouts, Mariah had heard through the grapevine that the girl who didn't try out was already off the team. We don't know if she quit. We don't know if she got expelled. We don't know, but the position's now vacant for a girl that wanted it so bad. So we knew there may be a vacant spot on the team, and Mariah desperately wanted to be a part of the team. I visited with Josh Meyer shortly after we found out, and he told me that he didn't know Mariah didn't make the team, and that he didn't know that they voted a girl on who didn't try out, and he did not know that the girl was already off the team. Mind you, Mrs. Smith told all the girls that they approved it through the administration for the girl to be on the team that didn't try out.
Can I jump in and just
Sure.
clarify? When we talked about it late on Sunday evening after a weekend of basketball, I didn't recall that. I didn't tell you that.
Mhm.
And after talking with Mr. Owen and Stephanie, I do refreshing my memory. We had visited about
Okay.
that. So
I understand that. I've been in that situation at work myself.
right.
So a lot going on. So that helps resolve that concern of the discrepancy. Anyway, Mr. Myers said that it would be reasonable for Mariah and myself, as her mother, to go visit with the coach about the situation. He also said that it was reasonable that if there was an open spot this early on, they haven't even started summer practice, that it would be reasonable that maybe the next person in line could fill the spot. And so Mariah got a hold of her cheer coach and set up a meeting. It was held here in the preschool, and she and I went. The morning of the meeting, I'm a nurse. I'm the director of nursing at a nursing home in Stafford. You guys are probably very familiar. I was working and I couldn't leave. I have to put in an 8-hour shift of RN coverage. So I asked my mother to come down to the school and obtain a copy of the tryout policy so we could review it before the meeting. So my mom went down to the school, and she was told by the secretary that Josh was out on vacation. She couldn't get the policy. And lo and behold, Stephanie Smith came in because she was looking for Josh to get some support for our meeting. And so my mom and Stephanie visited, and Stephanie said, I've got the policy at home. I'll either email or fax it to you. And my mom said, Mariah and Tracy would also like a copy of her cheer tryout score sheet. And the reason we wanted that was to see what the comments were, to see where she could improve to be successful next year. And Stephanie said she'd email or fax it. So, let's see. So we went to the meeting to meet with the cheer coach, and much to our surprise, there was a surprise guest there, her junior high cheer coach. And we felt that the meeting was extremely private and sensitive and personal. It was hard enough for Mariah to revisit such a painful experience, but to have to do this in front of somebody that is irrelevant to high school cheer. So we asked her to leave, and Stephanie did do that, and the visitor left. So we then had about an hour-long meeting. Initially, we were told by the high school coach that the vacant spot would not be filled, and she was pretty stern with that. So then we asked her for the cheer tryout policy, and she told us there wasn't one. So then we asked for Mariah's cheer score, and she said they've shredded it. So we asked if Mariah was next in line, and we were told no, that she wasn't, which we find extremely hard to believe considering she's such a good cheerleader and that the other two had virtually no experience. I could go on. I'm sure most of the board members have seen a couple of junior high games over the last 2 years and probably would agree with me that she's a wonderful cheerleader. She knows her fight song, she knows all the cheers, she does a great job. We asked how the cheerleaders were picked, and we were told that 3 Barton cheerleaders sit in on the tryout and they score the girls, and that is how the team is picked. If this is the case, how did the girl who didn't try out make the team? If this is true, then how is it that 5 boys were added to the team second semester of last year who didn't have to try out? If this is true, then why did the cheer coach tell us during the practice week that Mariah didn't seem to be giving 100%. That would be irrelevant if the tryout itself is the only thing taken into consideration. If that is true, then why in Mariah's 7th grade year, 12 girls signed up for the team? There were no tryouts, and everyone who signed up made the team. In Mariah's 8th grade team, they had to try out, and one returning cheerleader did not make the team, and I know that most of the girls that made it felt terrible for this girl. So this year in junior high, there was a set number in mind before the tryouts, but there was a tie, so both girls got on. These are many, many examples of how the inconsistency of the method used to determine how cheerleaders are selected is completely discriminatory and inconsistent. It leads me to believe that the coach can do whatever she pleases. So, Mariah, we talked about, we never could see the score sheet. We didn't get a lot of feedback on what she did so wrong to not make the team. But Mariah said her cheer went good, her dance went good. She knew the material and had no problems other than having a little bit of a delayed spiriting after the cheer. Towards the end of the meeting with the cheer coach, she seemed to be having different feelings about filling the position. She said that Josh had visited with her 2 days prior to the meeting, and he suggested having a JV cheer team. At the beginning of the meeting, she made it very clear that she was not interested in doing that at all, nor was she interested in filling the one position. So, towards the last half of the meeting, she said several times, we felt like maybe we were making some progress with her, and she said, it's not completely out of the question for Mariah to fill the position. I need to talk to Josh again. But we pointed out that if she wasn't the next in line, that wouldn't be correct either. And she didn't seem to comprehend that. So I put in my letter, so now we sit waiting to hear back from her. But I did hear back from her today. We were at the pool today, and she came and told me that they were not going to allow Mariah on the team, and that you agreed with that, and that if they couldn't do that anyway because they would need to present it to the board. Well, where is she, So, I know this is a lengthy letter, but I wanted everybody to know what we've gone through, and I just want to recap our concerns for management and fairness. I have lost a great deal of faith, trust, and respect for our school, considering they dropped the ball this big and are so grossly discriminative of kids. Aren't they advocates for our kids? Don't they want to see our kids be successful in their journey through school and also provide them with many, many opportunities to participate? I'm requesting that this letter be shared today, and I would strongly advise the board to develop a fair policy that the cheer coach and the administration is made to follow, so other kids are not treated as unfairly as mine has been. To some people, cheering may not be a big deal, but I guarantee you, to a 14-year-old girl who's done it for 2 years, it is. So, I just want to recap the highlighted points. There's no cheer tryout policy. The coach can make any decision she wants to, as evidenced by allowing a girl on the team who did not try out this year, allowing 5 boys to join the team last year, second semester, with no tryouts. Mariah's 7th grade year, 12 girls signed up, and they all got on. Her 8th grade year, they were made to try out, and only one returning cheerleader didn't make it, and I'm pretty sure if you asked all the girls that did make it, they shed a tear or two over it and deeply felt for the girl. And this year's junior high team had a set number, but ended up taking an extra girl because there was a tie. The other huge problem is that Mariah's cheer score sheet was shredded. What are we hiding? What will happen next year if my daughter gets injured and can't try out? How will they determine her score? We will never really know her score because there is no proof now. There is also no proof of who really is next in line. Well, Josh answered this one, but we were told at least twice by Stephanie that Josh knew about all this and he had forgotten, but we've resolved that. And lastly, taking away a sport from a girl who has had successful completion for the last 2 years. This is our hometown, and we have been very supportive of our school. She truly is a great cheerleader, and we simply do not understand. We find it really hard to understand because clearly they can do whatever they want, whenever they want, and we do not understand why they didn't want Mariah on the team. We also don't understand why the school would support taking this away from Mariah or any other student, as it's a great way to show school involvement and keep her moving in a positive direction in life. That's all I have.
We appreciate you bringing that letter.
Thank you. I don't
We,
like to cause trouble or ruffle feathers, but I feel like we've been treated unfairly, and I think many, many other girls have and could be at risk for in the future.
you have a right to speak your mind, and
There needs to be a policy.
we do have a copy of that letter, right? Okay. We'll address it at the appropriate time,
Thank you.
but now's not the appropriate time to get into that.
I understand.
I'm sure the administration will be contacting you further.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. All right. Any other patron comments? All right, we'll go on to the business agenda. First up, insurance policy renewal.
You do have it on page 29, is where the spreadsheet starts there.
So you got exactly what I sent you, Josh, I assume, and
Yep,
they got it in
Yep.
electronic format. You guys
yep,
can see.
and there might be, I just tweaked the pages if something was carrying
That's okay.
over.
Yeah,
So
that's
if
fine.
you're
Yeah.
referencing the page number,
Okay. Well,
might be a little
yeah, I don't know.
different.
I'll pretty much just talk about the highlighted stuff for the most part, and then we can answer any questions that you guys have. So, renewal for your school insurance is July 1st. And what we do is we put together a spreadsheet, kind of like we did a year ago, and it'll highlight the differences, show you the premiums, show you the coverages, and then we can talk about stuff. So, what I want to touch on first are the highlighted areas. It's the property section, page 1. It'll go through all the different coverages and the premiums, but the main difference on the property, there's not a lot of changes. The one big change is the deductible. The deductible went from $1,000 last year, and it's going to change to a $3,000 deductible, but on wind hail it'll be a $5,000 deductible. We don't really, to be honest with you, we don't really like that, but with the claims last year, all the hail claims, this is what they're forcing us to do, is to change it to that. The premium did go up a little bit. Even if we were able to keep $1,000 deductible, that premium on the property would have increased substantially if we were left at $1,000. But it's a moot point. They're requiring it. So you can look there. It does pass the eye test. If we're just looking at this as a whole, we're covering $21.5 million on the blanket for $24,000, not quite $24,000. It doesn't take a lot of roof claims to absorb that premium. So it passes the eye test, and that's the only difference on the property. Liability, that general liability extension, not to get into that a lot, but that wasn't on the prior policy. It really should have been. It's a liability form that basically broadens coverage for schools. So the wording in there gives you a little broadened coverage for any liability claim that might come about. So it's a $75 charge that should have been on there for years in the past. It's a good one to have. Okay, autos. This is the one that probably was the hardest to swallow. But when we initially took over the auto or the policy, they allowed us to keep a deductible of $100 to $250. So we kept it for the first renewal, and then they said, you're going to have to change it. Josh and I talked a little bit about going to that anywhere, getting a quote to see what the difference in premium would be. They're not allowing us to do it anyway. They're forcing our hand to go to a $250, $500 deductible. That's not as hard to swallow as if you look, and I highlighted them on mine, but if you look across there on the premium difference tab, there's 4 vehicles down there that change class code. So it's the Suburban, there's 2 vans, Josh can kind of point at them. There's the 3 2013s, yeah, and then there's an Expedition, the 15. Those 4 vehicles in the past have been classified as a bus class code. And with a bus class code, they give you a discount of 3 months. They view the bus as maybe not being driven all the time, every day, so they discount the premium a little bit. Well, for whatever reason, management this year said, we can't classify those as buses anymore. We got to classify them as private passenger or what they are. So they went to a different class code, thus the premium increase of $700 each across the board, which is just outrageous. And you can see the difference there and then what the new premiums are. So from $536 on that Suburban to $1,222.
Now, management, you mean EMC management?
Yeah, you can see.
Just to recap, EMC is our insurance company, and Ag 360 is the agency we work with.
When I say EMC management, EMC forced us to make this change, and then we can argue, lobby our point, and try to. And we didn't accept this for what it was worth, but they're sometimes hard and fast on certain things, and they're hard and fast on the deductible, and they would not let us change those class codes on those vehicles. So what we did was then we said, well, that's too much of an increase. That 12, if you look down at the bottom there's a 9608 compared to 12965. That's the increase from last year to this year. That was a little over 14,000. So we went back to them and said, we need at least a little more credit on the auto policy. It's just too much of a jump. So they took another 10% off. I know it's not a lot. It's not going to set the world on fire, but every little bit counts. So we got a little more credit on the auto side, and so that's where the premium's coming in at. I did tell Josh that I hope when we're having this conversation a year from now that premium is pretty consistent, because we won't see different reclassifications of vehicles next year. Okay, the next one, the cyber solutions. You guys currently have data compromise on the policy today, and it shows there a little bit of what it covers. Cyber solutions is a new benefit. It's quoted. It's not something you have to take. It's an optional coverage, of course. It costs $347, and it covers, well, if your computer's attacked, it recreates, loss of business, public relations, defense. So if things like that happen, that type of coverage will kick in and cover those costs. It's a $347 charge. Is what that is.
And I included the sheet on that if you're curious about
And I brought
what
one
the
too.
differences
You got one.
are.
Okay. And I can even pass it around the option if they want. Do they have that?
Yeah, on page 33 is where it shows.
Okay.
So, yeah, we had the data compromise, which basically covers if we're hacked and somebody
If somebody
steals
compromises the data. Yeah.
Right. And then this would cover if some virus attacks are, and we have to recover some, or a server or something like that.
Recreate the data if a server's hacked into. Yeah.
So that more covers us, not just a liability.
Somebody else, right? Somebody else's information, and the downtime that's involved in the sending out the letters to the public if there's stuff like that. It's all covered within that coverage. For $347, it is a good. It's becoming more prevalent just because of the situations that we have that we're exposed to. Questions on that? The last part on the spreadsheet, and it's not highlighted, but it's the work comp. Just looking at the work comp overall, it looks really good. If you notice there, your experience mod went down from a 1.03 to a 0.75. There haven't been a lot of claims, and the claims that you've had have not been very large. So they basically gave you a large discount on the work comp for this year to the tune of $8,500. I wish we could be presenting an $8,000 low renewal, but the auto premium absorbed a little bit of that, and then the property premium went up a little bit. So all in all, if you look at the total premium, $67,402 last year, we are coming in at a lower rate this year, $2,600. I know it's not maybe as good as we would have liked to have seen, but lower is better. So that's the short and sweet. But any questions on the entire spreadsheet? We can go over in more detail, as much detail as you guys want to, but I did want to touch on the main points.
Any questions for Trey? Thank Thanks, Trey.
Thanks, guys.
I would recommend we approve the policy renewal as presented. I'm comfortable with all of that.
On this agenda item, I've got a conflict of interest, so I'm gonna excuse myself, turn it over to Vice President Alpers.
You need to move down there.
Yeah, you can stay there. You can step out.
Yep.
Okay.
Just make note of the time. Step out.
Okay, if there's no other questions, entertain a motion for accepting the insurance policy renewal.
Mr. President, I move that the board approve the insurance policy renewal with Ag 360 and EMC as presented.
Second. Okay, it's been moved and seconded to approve the insurance policy renewal with Ag 360 and EMC as presented. Is there any other discussion? Hearing no other discussion, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries 6-0.
I know we've talked about this before, but just to clarify, if Chad were to stay in the meeting and if you abstain from voting, it's a no vote in the board meeting. If you excuse yourself, leave the meeting, there's only 6 people here. It's a 6-0 vote, so it's not a big deal, but just to clarify that. We haven't run into it a lot, so.
We learned that at KASB.
Yeah, once in a while.
Okay. Item number 2, establish lunch prices.
Page 34, you have your lunch prices there. Just recommend bumping those student lunch prices up a nickel. That keeps us well within the guidelines. The guidelines are such that we cannot be, we don't want the federal lunch program supplementing other kids' lunches, so we have to charge a certain rate, and that's why we have to look at that each year. I know I've showed you this before, but this shows our revenue and expenses and the difference. That's about how much we make up each year from our general fund. So our food service program isn't self-sufficient, but we're pretty close. So it's, we do a lot better than a lot.
Do you think that nickel is going to make up any of that, or just cover increases next year?
It'll make up a little bit, not a lot. And I think we're going to be in better shape even this year than we were in 14, 15. So I feel real good about our food service program.
Mr. President, I move that the board approve the update fee scheduled as presented. Oh, yep.
Second.
It's moved and seconded, the board approve the updated fee schedule as presented. Is there any discussion?
Is that, are we only talking about lunch? There's no-
Yeah, I didn't
Okay.
change anything else on that fee schedule. So whatever's highlighted is what we're approving that we hadn't approved already.
Is there any further discussion? All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carried, 7-0. Bids for summer projects.
On your documents there, if you go back to, you see a boiler bids document, just close out of the whatever you're in there, and then you'll see boiler bids, boiler pump bids. I've given you the bid request form. Ideally, in a perfect world, we'd hire an engineer to engineer all this and spec it out, and then we know exactly what needs specifications. We didn't do that to avoid significant cost. Recall the last meeting we had one bid. We didn't get any other bids. I did, and the board said, "Hey, we need to we need more bids before we act on something this big. So I did get a formal bid from KVK. Theirs is $25,850. They're the group that we work with periodically on maintenance of our equipment, boiler system. They installed the equipment here in the library. Knip Equipment is Kansas Train. They submitted a bid of $16,440. And Meyer Electrical submitted a bid. It's kind of hard to see that there. It's right under the here by proposed $25,640. The concern when you don't use an engineer, are we comparing exactly the same thing? Are we looking at apples to apples? And I know there's at least one difference with Knip's bid. There are no temperature and pressure indicators. We don't need the control part of things.
I just wonder if it's the same boiler. That's the big.
Well, it's the pump and motor and everything associated with that. So
the same pump.
no, I don't think it is. So they put the brand of pump, and as long as we don't have the same pump that we have, I did not specify that. So,
Two bids are the same, and one is.
yeah, two bids are very much the same.
So you think that Knip is sufficient with?
I have questions about it yet, and I just got the last bid today, so at 3 o'clock.
But this one?
From Meyer Electric.
I wonder if the pump is the same, because the one's B&G, the other's Bell and Gossett.
Yeah, I'm just wondering if we're not
Something else
apples
was
to apples.
Yeah, and we didn't specify the brand of pump. I do know that KVK is doing a different style of pump because that's what they would recommend. Again, I didn't spec it out like that. We want it the same as what we've got, and KVK, they said, well, this would be better for you.
Did Jeff say anything like he's done this before, or is?
No, he's done some boiler work for you guys, hasn't he?
Yeah. Yes.
And I know he's, in his bid, he mentions, as far as the fluid there, the system at Camtech, he's working with another vendor, and obviously has more expertise in that. So we're at the point where we need to move on this fairly quickly. So options. Option one would be take the bids as we see them here. Option two would be for me to get a hold of these three and see if we can work out the differences. What are we missing that others, are there differences? And then we would need to have a special meeting to approve this quickly, or we're going to have to wait till next summer. The system has to be shut down for a period of time.
Excuse me. Do you know, can all three vendors jump right on this as soon as possible? Or?
Yes, I've told them August 1, and Jeff Meyer said, is that flexible at all? I said, well, second week of August for sure. We need to be done with that. So we need to. We've still got quite a bit of time for a classroom before we get teachers in the building officially. But we'd like to have it up and running August 1.
You said we've done business with both KVK and Knip?
Not Knip.
We never have.
I don't think we've done. I don't think we have.
KVK, we have a service contract with.
We don't have a contract, but
Okay.
we're working with them. So, unless we have a significant reason to say we can't accept a lower bid, the only thing is the temperature and pressure gauges are not included in that. Technically, that doesn't fit with the specs, but that's not going to be $10,000 worth of difference. So.
I don't think I'm comfortable with this commit.
being that much lower. I mean, that's great, but
What's the difference as far as the cost?
yeah, there's gotta be a reason.
Especially since the other two are so close together.
Mhm.
And we've used both the other two. I think you might need to ask Kenneth more questions, figure out what they're getting. What do you all think?
I'm good with that. I mean, I love the lower price, but it's the catch. We don't want it to come back and bite us in the wintertime.
Well, we just don't want to get in there and then it not be right. Or we come in and they say, well, we didn't have that in the scope of work, so we need to have that, we need to have this. Did Connect come out on site? They did, yeah, they brought an engineer out.
You think if they came out here, they would know it pump.
Yeah, I feel comfortable that they could get the pump in and get it done. I worry about.
We're not getting a rebuilt pump, are we?
No. Good question, makes you wonder.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm all for keeping the local business myself, but
So are you comfortable in Connect? I think they can do the job, yes, but I think we need to ask more questions and have that outlined. You know, like I said, I don't want to get in a position where we're going to add $12,000 to this and then be above the other bid. If it's something that we're missing.
So your recommendation is go back, clarify that as far as what Kenneth Scott versus the
Yeah.
others, and then we just have a quick meeting sometime
Yeah.
to go. Okay.
Yeah, I know this time of year is
But
very
KVK
tough.
was the one that had the bid before they,
Correct.
and we asked you to solicit these other two.
Mhm.
Oh, so we've already put it off a month.
Yeah.
That's the thing.
Is Kenneth pretty fast on responding?
Yes. Well, I say that their rep is their account rep is good about getting with me. They've been working to get our business for a long time. They would like to have our maintenance contract. They're trying. Trying hard. Yeah. And it could be that too. They're pricing it right so they get their foot in the door, get our business. So. So you make a phone call? I will. This special meeting, is this something that a couple of guys can do by conference call? Yes. We got a couple of guys that are, several, extremely busy right now. Yeah. So we have a conference call then? Yeah. That sound okay? All right. Anything else on that topic? Okay. We'll move on to capital improvements plan. Nothing earth-shattering here. We've already discussed this. At the last meeting, I did add the concrete and some plumbing repairs. We do need to fix that water line we've had an issue with. So other than that, nothing's really different. Our revenue for this year is a little higher than what we anticipated. I do believe next year's estimated revenue, I've got it at $180,000. Should be 4 or 5 mills. I was not anticipating on having that extraordinary needs fund, having access to that money, which would mean we need to raise our tax rate another 3 or 4 mills or lower something else, which would be capital outlay. Or with the court case, that could change that, where we might get some of those funds. Also, we're going to, instead of purchase the Chromebooks out of capital outlay, we've got some federal funds that we need to use. We'll use those instead, those funds we didn't use last year. So we've got 2 years' worth. So that'll be another $40,000 in the mix that we can devote to something else.
What would you recommend?
I'm not certain right now, so that's why I didn't put it in the plan. I just thought I'm going to keep the plan the same until we know for sure. So we need doors, exterior doors. We need some upgrades there.
What do those cost? One door, 40,000.
Yeah. So I would recommend approving the plan as it is. This doesn't hold us to anything. You still have to approve every purchase, but this gives me direction of where we're headed for next year.
Mr. President, I move the board approve the capital improvements plan as presented.
Second.
Moved and seconded, the board approve the capital improvements plan as presented. Is there any discussion? All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carried 7-0. Board goals, page 38.
We went through a review of the board goals a few months ago. I won't go into detail on everything. Goal 1, we still need ongoing training. That's gonna be something we need to do with our Chromebooks. Our new tech coordinator, Mr. Watts, he knows the Google platform well. Some of that training he can take care of in-house. We don't have to hire out for that. So objective 2, obviously, we're going to be there next year with our 1-to-1 in the high school at least. So goal 2. Every year we've increased credits. Next year we're going to have seniors will be able to take English, 6 credits of English for the year. Get their Column 1 and Column 2 out of the way. Textbook adoption schedule needs to happen. The one thing that complicates that is our technology. What are we going to do there? And have an online textbook. So that's an area we need to keep working on. The recognition for student success. Mr. All did a great job, and the teachers with their program this year. We're headed in the right direction there. We need some work at the high school. Right now we really don't have a way to recognize academic successes other than maybe honor roll and then our senior night, but that's just at the end. Goal 3, our capital improvements plan is ongoing. That objective is really done. We're on the right track there to keep doing that. Facility maintenance plan needs work. Goal 4, we're still working on the staff recruitment plan, the formal one, and we've got some things in place for staff recognition, so it's sort of ready to take off next year. Their education foundation, I did attend the foundation meeting, or the alumni banquet, and talked to them for a brief moment.
Did anybody respond back to you?
Belichick. I showed up before the banquet and showed folks around the building. So,
Good.
so I think that's an avenue we need to tap for support there. And our cash balances, that's just an ongoing thing. So I guess the question is, what do we want to do? We've got a few options. We stick with these 5 main goals, tweak the objectives under each. Do we want to look at more long-term, 1 to 3 years, or more of a strategic plan? Here's an example of one from Hillsborough. Pretty generic, a lot similar to ours. The goals are less wordy, but just more of an area of focus, I guess. we've kind of treated our goals as about next year, what do we want to work on, what is our focus? But we've really kept it the same for a couple years now. And then more of a strategic plan, I wouldn't recommend we go into this by ourselves. And I'm not going to go through this, I just wanted to provide you with an example, but specifically what do we want to do down the road. I think at some point we would want to look at a more comprehensive plan, looking deeper into the future, but it's tough right now. So
We would need to have probably KSB come in.
yeah, if we were to do that, yeah. When we'd be talking to community meetings, get input from community. I think that's something good to happen at some point. It's kind of up to you whether you want to head down that road sooner or later. If you're happy with what we have. We are doing this a little earlier than we have in past years. We've tried to get that nailed down maybe in September, but I think we've really already started school, so now it's kind of a good time. Any input?
I think we all ought to take these goals and think about them for the next month and come back with ideas if we want to tweak them. I don't know about going through the whole session this year with all the instability. We don't even know what we're going to have to work with.
Right.
But we have had these goals for 2 years. I think it was 2 years ago we went through a session on it.
Before the new ones came along. Right.
Hey, for us, they're new.
Okay,
I think it's been 2 years since
yeah, probably.
we did. So, like Josh said, we now have a one-to-one, we're going to at the high school with technology. And we can decide if we want to take that on down further into the middle school. Just things like that, is that what you're getting
Yep,
at?
that's a good example. This kind of tells us, Mr. Oliver and I as administrative staff, where our priorities need to be. So, you guys tell us where to go, and we try to get us there. So, that's the idea.
We could slip tweak one of these goals, more of a career readiness type of goal.
It's part of policy, right? Clear on here. The State Board of Education has a vision for what they want to see in their these outcomes, not so much just you pass the state assessment test and you're accredited and we move on with life, which is a horrible plan that we've been working under for a lot of years. But the 5 areas of focus would be kindergarten readiness, individual plan of study focused on career interest, high school graduation rates, post-secondary completion and attendance, and then social emotional growth, grit, stick it with itness, things like that try to focus on, which I can get you these, so I'm just keeping those things in mind. I'll give you this too. This is, if you recall, over the course of the last year, the State Board of Education has gone around the state and visited with communities. This kind of breaks down what we're talking about, what the suggestions were for what does it take to be a successful student. See the green or the red and orange there, the 23 and 70%. The general community says 70% of it's non-academic. So it's not all just focused on whether the kids can get a high ACT score, whether they can be challenged and stick with it, things like that. So I'm not going to go through all that with you, but it kind of relates to this discussion and where we want to head as a school district. So keep those things in mind, I guess, when you're reviewing those board goals and looking for next month.
So does that sound good? If we think about it this month and come back with any new ideas we might have, or if it might just be tweaking some of these existing goals.
Yeah, I'm good with that.
Okay.
I'm good with it too. I agree with you though, it's so hard to know what to do when you don't know what's going on.
Kind of hard to read.
Right, it's hard not to just focus or concern on that, but, you know, we have to carry on like it's gonna be okay.
Some of this you could add without having an expense,
Right.
too, so. Just taking time to recognize students, and making them feel confident about themselves and things doesn't cost a lot of money, it's just
Well,
mentoring them.
right, and for example, that career fair was a big hit, maybe we want to expand that to help kids get ready to go into the world. Not that they're not being prepared, but
Can always be better.
that's right,
So,
that's right. And next, I'd be interested to know with the recent graduates, what the breakout is of what everyone's planning to do. College, rotech, work, military.
I think we will have that data. One of those things on goal 2, objective 4, develop a system to track student success outcomes. That's something we're working on too with our data. We've paid for it. It looks back 5 years. Is that right, Travis, on that clearinghouse data? Do you recall?
Seems like she's working on a 9 or 10 years.
It tracks back 5 years of what our students did, where they went to college, what level of college they went to, were they successful in their first year, did they drop out at some point, and we'll be able to get that data. And I was hoping to have it before now, but it's been difficult to compile and get all together. I think that'll be a great situation to spur some discussion there.
Absolutely. So when do you think you'll have that ready?
Well, I thought I would have had it by now. It's not done.
Can't imagine you don't have anything else to do.
Well, Lisa's been working on it, so we've had troubles in just getting the data. We've got it in, and how we get the reports out is where we're stuck now. So.
If you could get that to us when you can. Sure. Okay, any other discussion on board goals? If not, we'll move on to budget authority.
This is a standard item. This just gives us in the district office permission to move those salaries around, those expenses like I was talking about in the budget, in the consent agenda. We'll just move the money around where it needs to be to make the books work in the end. So if something's out of whack, we'll be sure to touch base with you.
Mr. President, I move that the board grant authority to administration to make final financial transfers and adjustments in the educational interest of the school district.
Second.
So moving and second, the board grant authority to administration to make final financial transfers and adjustments in the education interest of the school district. All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carried, 7-0. Approved destruction of documents.
This just lets us get rid of our old financial records that we don't need anymore. So the board has to approve everything we get rid of.
Mr. President, I move that the board approve the destruction of appropriate district financial records from the 2009-2010 budget year.
Second.
Moving second, the board approved the destruction of appropriate district financial records from the 2009-2010 budget year. All in favor, aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carried, 7-0.
Are the shredders coming back?
I don't know. All right, communications, board member activities. Start with you, Carl.
I don't have anything tonight.
Debbie?
SEC had almost a 3-hour meeting last time because there are questions about the budget increase. Fortunately, Mr. Meyer had already discussed it with us at our school board meeting, but there were a couple schools that weren't aware that they were asking for a 7.5% increase. So that took up a lot of time, and then there was also some executive session time spent on one of the schools wanting to opt out of the gifted program. So we talked about that, and that took a really long time to kind of get through somebody's head. I mean, a really long time. So it was, you know, that the meeting has been changed for this month because of harvest, so we're meeting Thursday night instead of next Monday. Which means that we don't have a lot of time to get the information in advance, but based on what we discussed at the last board meeting, I made the motion to agree to the 7.5%, which was what they had requested, and it was voted down 4-3. So I'll try again this time.
So no budget.
No budget. Hopefully there will be as of Thursday night. And Marcia's note said that there was somebody who had some additional information to share with the group this week, so it could be another blow, and I'm prepared.
Okay, that sounds like a lot of things going on there.
Yeah.
Thank you. Darren?
Nothing.
Barb?
I attended graduation.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, thanks. Sorry there.
I remembered the last time I was going to talk about I helped with preschool father-child fishing day, which was a lot of fun. So watching parents and children, students interact. And I don't know if we have an educational foundation meeting or not. I haven't.
We don't have it scheduled yet, so.
And I can't remember if I'm on the Cornwall Scholarship or did somebody else take that. Did you?
I'm on it. I'm not sure who.
They'll be coming up pretty soon. So.
Yeah, I've been waiting for a call.
Well, June has called me in the past, so
Okay.
if she calls me, I'll
If you
try.
get the call, have at it.
No, I mean, I'll try to let you know when it is.
Yeah.
So, other than that, can't think of anything else other than.
Okay. Vance?
I hosted the, after the end of the school year, staff/board party, I guess. And it was a good time, and the weather didn't cooperate, and everybody went home early. But the teachers can really cook, and Josh cooked a nice hamburger, so had a good time.
Good deal. Eric?
We had a negotiations team meeting. Can't really negotiate much till we get budget numbers, so we talked over a few different things and went through what the teachers requested, and we'll have another meeting once we have a little more information from the state and know where we're at. So.
I do want to add one more thing.
Yes.
I attended the retirement, and thank you to Lisa for working so hard and whoever helped put that on. It was very nice. I think they enjoyed it.
That was a huge reception.
It was.
Well deserved. I had the pleasure of helping with the senior interviews at the end of school. That's always a lot of fun. To make the youngsters sweat a little bit, but they all did a good job, and you're ready to go out there and get something done. Mr. Raleigh?
Okay, I don't have a formal one in your packet. Mine will kind of be a mix of elementary and high school things. Did put something on your desk. I just got those from Andy Webb this morning. These are close to being finalized grade cards. We talked a while back about going to the standards-based in the kindergarten through 4th grade. Still a few typos, but for the most part, those are in place, ready to roll out in August. The first page just kind of talks about the difference between a regular grade card and a standard-based grade card, that kind of thing. It would be information that would be available to parents in August when they get a new grade card and aren't quite sure what that thing means. End of the year banquet was well attended. That last day of school was the first time doing it. We didn't really know what to expect, how many people would show up, but there was a nice crowd, and several parents took their kids early that day when it was over, and kids seemed to enjoy it. Staff seemed to like it. I assume it's something they'll continue. You're talking about one of the board goals, giving students, talking about the career day, more opportunities like that. One thing that we're going to do with the junior class next year is ESDAC is hosting, they're calling it a post-secondary and career expo. They're doing it at the mall one day. They're doing it 2 days in November. We picked one of the days. They're going to take the entire junior class, but kind of another opportunity to give kids more exposure to those things. I've got it pulled up on the website right now. It says they're going to have representatives from community colleges, technical colleges, apprenticeship programs, military, trade schools, and four-year colleges and universities that are able to meet with kids, talk about careers and stuff. One thing, when Mr. Meyer and I were at the USA conference last week, one thing that Randy Watson, the Commissioner of Education, talked a little about is, we have to get in parents' minds and in kids' minds that it's okay to not go to a four-year school. You don't have to go to a KU, K-State, something like that when you graduate. It's okay to go to some of these technical colleges and get a year or two of training and get out into the real world. And sometimes maybe it's more convincing to parents that that's okay, that your child doesn't have to go to a four-year university or a JUCO and then a university after that. So hopefully things like that will give some of those kids more exposure to those type of careers that are out there where you don't have to have a bachelor's or a master's degree, something like that. And then last, junior high football, we talked a little last month. Ruben met with the kids again. I believe we're up to 8 or 9. Is that kind of what we're thinking right now? Took it to the league meeting and filled them in on our situation. There wasn't a lot of discussion on it. The league just kind of said, well, let's plan on you having a team, and if you can do 6-man, great. If not, we'll worry about it in August. Which, if we were the only school dealing with that, it'd be one thing, but Kinsley, it sounds like they're only going to have 8 kids out for football this year, and Otis Bison isn't planning on a football team. He said they have 4 signed up, so they're at their board meeting tonight talking about what they're going to do next year, if they're going to look to play with lacrosse or what. So I guess right now the plan is to go with us having our own junior high team. We might have to redo the schedule tomorrow if Otis and lacrosse or Otis and somebody get into some type of cooperative agreement, but the plan is for us to field our own team, and I don't know what happens in August if we lose kids or we don't have kids go out that say they're going to, but one person from the league kind of stepped up and said, let's keep it as it is, and there wasn't a lot of argument from anyone else. So and that's all I've got.
Thank you. Yep. Mr. Mark?
Along the football line, the danger there is if we don't have enough kids, then the kids that want to play they're just out. And we really do want kids to participate in things.
Do you think that the kids that want to play would go play somewhere else, or just
We
not
didn't.
do that?
I think most of them would. I don't know that all would.
Some of them, I was thinking, if they can't play for St. John, they just might not want to play.
Yeah, some of them I think would. Or 1 or 2 of them.
The dual
There's a
sports
couple.
may not want to go.
Yeah, the ones that are trying to do cross country and football.
Is there any way of just scrimmaging with whoever you can get, from other areas, or?
He
Not
would rather
necessarily, so they keep the practice and the game and learn the skills, but not necessarily call it a,
Well, we've kind of got that. I mean, if we're going to play
Mhm.
6-man, it's, we had that a little bit last year. There was a lot of games this is what we got. We go play.
One idea that was tossed around was, let's just leave everything like it is, and if one team doesn't have a team, then, as it's set up right now, everybody has a bye week. Like, I think maybe Central Plains is week 1, and I don't know who Otis Bison plays, but for instance, let's say we were supposed to play Otis Bison week 1. Well, Otis Bison doesn't have a team, so Central Plains will just fill that spot now because they have a bye week. Well, the danger we're having right now is there could be 3 of us that are struggling to fill a team, so then it becomes all sorts of chaos. So
Maxville seems very willing to let our kids participate with them. Mr. Olive said it'd be easy if it was just our school, but when you got 2 other schools in the same boat,
How's that working on insurance policy? See, one of our kids went to play in Maxwell, got hurt over there. Who covers it?
well, our insurance doesn't cover sports injuries. If it was negligence, we got sued or something like that, it would be, I don't know. We would both be covered.
What about
if it was
transporting to and from Maxwell?
we would have our coach take the kids over. So they would be covered under both policies. If it was a negligent situation, it would be, was it the equipment negligent or the coach's negligence? Or
How many junior high kids are going up cross country, and how many are boys?
18 was the number, I believe. I don't know on the boy-girl count.
is this a small boys?
And that includes
Junior high
6th
grade.
grade.
Yeah, that includes 6th grade who can't play football either.
Is the numbers
We're-
less in junior high and the boys? Is this the class that's short on,
The 8th grade class is going to be small. There's 16 or 17 kids and 7 boys maybe. 7 or so.
8th grade class is our smallest class
Yeah.
next year.
I wondered does that play into it, or you just think it's getting
Yeah,
to be
sure.
a sport that nobody?
A little bit. I think it's
But I mean, are you seeing an increase over last year in the cross country? Kids are wanting to do that in junior high?
I don't remember how
I
many.
don't remember how many were in junior high. But yes, overall, we got a lot more kids need to participate in cross country next year. Mr. Olive mentioned we went to the USA conference. I got to hear from Dale Dennis and folks from KASB. Got to hear from a school that has their own one-to-one initiative. Got a lot of good information there. Talked to a lot of vendors about roofing, things we're looking at down the road. So, professional development next year. We've got some ideas from teachers. A lot of the high school, they'll be focused on the technology and Chromebooks. Elementary, lower grades at least with our math textbook. CPR and first aid has been something that a few of the teachers have brought up. That we need some reminders of some of that with the situation we had. It was kind of a good reminder that, hey, maybe we could use a little more of that. The legislative update, there's a lot of questions. People want to know what's going to happen. I want to know as well. So I'll get something out in my newspaper article for next week. I don't have answers. There's people doing in school districts planning every step. What happens if we shut down? What do we do with our equipment? What do we do with our insurance policies? And how do we close down the building? I really don't think we'll end up there. It's never happened in the history of this country in any state. I don't see it happening this time. The situation is the court ruling was about equity. School funding in the state has been ruled unequitable. And when we talk about equity, we're not talking about poor kids.
versus rich kids, we're talking about the ability to equalize taxes. 1 mil in this district is similar to a mil in that district. And it's not, so they make up for it. The state makes up for that. So it's just taxing equity, not wealth and income. So this court said it's not constitutional. The state can't operate an unconstitutional system. So what happens? Well, they have to shut things down. So whose fault is that? I guess we can all make our own decision there, but it's the reality that we're in right now. So how do we fix that? One way is to go back to the old system of equalizing the local option budget. If we did that, it would cost $38 million for the state. Seems like a pretty easy fix. That's only 1% of the entire education funding. So I've heard say, well, why would the Supreme Court do that for 1% of total funding? It seems ridiculous. And on the other side, it's only 1%, just pony up and let's move on. But the state doesn't have $38 million. They have $0 million. So where do we find that money? You have to take it from somewhere else. It's not in the bank. Something else would have to be cut to do that. Also, with the old formula, Johnson County school districts would lose a lot of money. So one option floated would be, well, what if we just made a hold harmless provision and we'll go back to the old formula, but if you're going to lose money, we'll give you some next year. That'll cost about $50 million. Again, we still don't have $50 million. So there may be other options to address the situation. There'll likely be a constitutional amendment presented that would change how we select judges, or that the court can't shut schools down ever for any reason. So I hope they stay focused on the issue at hand, but you know how politics works and likely go different directions. But so that's the situation. If they don't fix it, we can't operate under an unconstitutional system. What does that mean for us? I don't know. The court would have to give us guidelines. Does that just mean the state can't send schools money? We can just spend whatever we have, or could they send us our federal money? Or does that mean we can't spend money? We can't write checks, we can't do any of that. So we're planning on working through the summer. We're not changing anything. We have money in the bank to survive for a month. Our payroll isn't huge. The teachers, they collect their paychecks through the summer. Those are already written. The checks are cut. They're direct deposits will be scheduled to go in the middle of each month when they're supposed to. Money's already encumbered out of this year's budget. There's no danger of teachers not getting the money they're due. Now some school districts have said, well, if they shut us down, can we just go ahead and pay the summer help in July, in June? Well, that's not legal to do. We can't, as a school district, pay people for work they haven't done yet. That's a gift. We can't give gifts like that. So that's not even an option. But I really don't think we'll have to address the situation. I haven't spent a lot of time looking at what are the solutions, what are we going to do, because I don't believe it will happen. I do have a resolution held back. If they don't get something fixed, we may have to call a special meeting to say, regardless of what you all are doing in Topeka, we're going to spend the money that we have to protect our assets, protect our interests, like paying our insurance policy. You can't go a day without an insurance policy. So whether that would get us through or not, I don't know legally, but I don't know who's going to stop us. So that's the situation in a nutshell. If we need to address something more specifically, I'll get with you on it. If that makes sense. Any questions on that issue? Have you had questions from patrons?
A few.
It's going to be okay. It really is. I'm sure of it. And if it's not, I'll tell you I was
I think that's part of the
Yes.
discussion.
On the politics.
I
Just
think
because
that's
it's
gonna be
on,
part of the SEC discussion.
just because it's on, it's being recorded. Our summer lunch program, we will operate that through the middle of July. If we have 30 kids each day, that's about our break-even point to cover our costs. More than that, we have profit, basically. That's not why we're doing it. It keeps our people employed. Kids get a meal that maybe some of them otherwise wouldn't. And it's not based on income. My kid comes and gets a free lunch. There's no income check at all. The federal program pays for that. So it's not costing us a dime as long as we have 30 kids per day come through that. We've been averaging 50 in our first week. So, July board meeting and the meeting schedule. In July, you all should have a copy of this in your notebook. I can send you this as well if you need it. But just a list of all the things we need to do, something to be thinking about, be president, vice president, our board meeting dates. We talked about maybe November, December, January, and February being at 6 o'clock. Do we still want to do that? We did that this year. We didn't have it scheduled that way, but we changed it. I will have that in the packet for that. All the other meetings on the second Monday will be, there's no conflicts, and there's some activities, but we can't get away from all of those. So lots of different things to do, any of the appointments, scholarship committees, and some of those things. So those are marked with an asterisk. So be thinking about that.
You'll send that out
Mhm.
to us.
There's just so much on there you want to do, right?
There's so much on there I need to look it over.
And a lot of it's stuff you don't really need to worry about. But.
Okay. Anything else?
Nope, that's all I have.
All right.
My report.
Thank you.
I apologize if I was distracted with the computer a little bit ago. I was trying to get the AC to kick back on. It's on now.
We used to run a fan.
I didn't notice it.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, there used to be a fan down here. I don't know where it walked off to.
Well, you
I
can't
don't
hear
think it's
anything
a
with
lot.
that fan's on.
Fan's
Yeah.
always
Yeah.
on.
New one.
Yeah.
Just fine.
Yeah.
All right, we'll move on to executive session. We've got 3 executive sessions tonight, personnel negotiations and student matter. We'll start out with personnel.
I think 10 minutes, unless somebody has something. Personnel.
With,
Travis, with Mr. Oliver and myself.
I move that the board go into executive session to discuss employer, that's not the right one. Okay. To discuss personnel matters in order to protect the privacy of non-elected personnel, with Mr. Meyer and Mr. Olive to be included, and that we return to open session in 10 minutes in this room.
Second motion.
it's been moved and seconded, the board go into executive session to discuss personnel matters in order to protect the privacy of non-elected personnel, with Mr. Olive and Mr. Meyer to be included, and that we return to open session in 10 minutes in this room. All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries 7-0. Executive session on the agenda, negotiations.
Mr. President, I move the board go into exec, oh. Mr.
Yeah.
Okay. I move the board go into executive session to discuss employee-employer negotiation in order to protect the public interest in negotiating a fair and equitable contract, with Mr. Olive to be included, Mr. Meyer and Mr. Olive to be included, and that they return to open session in 10 minutes in this room, or 5 minutes. Correction. 5 minutes in this room.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded, the board go into executive session to discuss employer negotiations in order to protect the public interest in negotiating a fair and equitable contract with Mr. Ogg and Mr. Meyer to be included, and that we return to open session in 5 minutes in this room. All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carried 7-0. Who would be in this executive session?
Mr. Oliver and myself for 5 minutes.
5 minutes. Okay.
Okay, Mr. President, I move that the board go into executive session to discuss matters affecting a student in order to protect the privacy of named students, with Mr. Meyer and Mr. Olive to be included, and that we return to open session in 5 minutes in this room.
Second.
The move and seconded, the board go into executive session to discuss matters affecting a student in order to protect the privacy of named students, with Mr. Olive and Mr. Meyer to be included, and that we return to open session in 5 minutes in this room. All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carried 7-0. Closing business items?
I have a recommendation for the supplemental contracts. To update those.
Mr. President, I move the board approve the updated supplemental contracts list as presented.
Second.
It's moved and seconded, the board approve the updated supplemental contracts as presented. All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carried 7-0. Learning lab supervisor.
I recommend we hire Kristen Knight for that position.
Mr. President, I move that the board approve Kristen Knight as the Learning Center Supervisor for the 2016-17 school year.
Second.
Moved and seconded, the board approve Kristen Knight as the Learning Center Supervisor for the 2016-17 school year. All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carried 7-0. Future agenda items.
I'm very doubtful we'll have a budget to approve. Hopefully we'll be able to do those other things. Okay.
Anything else?
We are going to have our library budget meeting on the, I believe it's 22nd. Can the interlocal meet and discuss that before the other budget is approved?
We'll do that. We'll do the interlocal meeting or the formal budget in August. So as
Okay.
long as we have it done
Okay.
before the end of July.
Anything else to come before the board? Entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded, we adjourn. All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Meeting adjourned.